Absolute power is a heavy crown to wear. Throughout history, it often ends in public chaos. Today, we dive into the final moments of history's most notorious dictators. 14 minutes of bunkers and trials. From those who died in their beds to those who faced the mob. This is how they left the stage. We start with Joseph Stalin, the man of steel who ruled the Soviet Union with a grip of total terror. In March 1953, the man who shaped the century through fear was suddenly facing his own mortality. After a night of drinking with his inner circle, Stalin retired to his private quarters at his dacha. The house was quiet, but the atmosphere was thick with the paranoia he had cultivated for decades. Sometime during the night, he suffered a massive, debilitating stroke that paralyzed him instantly. He lay for hours on the floor, conscious but unable to move, trapped in a room no one dared enter. The hours ticked by as he lay in his own urine, surrounded by the silence of a house built on terror. Outside, the world went on, unaware that the absolute ruler of the Soviet Union was dying alone. His guards were so terrified that no one dared open his door without direct orders, even when he failed to emerge. To check on him was to risk execution for disturbing the leader. The fear he cultivated became his cage. It wasn't until late the next evening that a guard finally found the courage to enter under the guise of delivering tea. They found him on the floor, dying. But even then, the inner circle was too afraid to call for help. The inner circle arrived, but Beria supposedly blocked medical aid, waiting for the leader to finally expire. By the time doctors finally touched him, he was beyond saving. The man of steel was fading away. His daughter recalled his final moments as he suddenly pointed a finger upward in a gesture of anger. He died on March 5, 1953. His absolute rule had ended in absolute self-inflicted isolation. Millions mourned, and his body was embalmed to join Lenin, a final act of state-managed control. Next is Adolf Hitler, the man who envisioned a 1,000-year Reich that lasted barely 12. In April 1945, Hitler's world was a few cramped rooms deep beneath the ruins of Berlin. The Red Army was blocks away, and Soviet artillery shells were pounding the bunker's ceiling. In his final 48 hours, he married his longtime companion Eva Braun in a brief ceremony. He dictated his final political testament, blaming everyone but himself for Germany's destruction. Facing certain capture, they decided to end it. Eva took cyanide, Hitler took a capsule and a bullet. The Reich ended in the silence of that bunker. His final order was to ensure his body was never found. His remains were carried outside and burned in a shell crater, leaving only ashes for history. Benito Mussolini, the Duce of Italy, met a far more public and violent end. By 1945, his empire was a distant memory as the Allied forces moved north through Italy. Mussolini attempted to flee to Switzerland in a German convoy disguised in a soldier's coat. He was recognized by partisans near Lake Como. His escape ended before it truly began. He and his mistress were executed by firing squad the following day in a small village. Their bodies were taken to Milan and hung upside down at a gas station for a final display. Hideki Tojo, the face of Imperial Japan's war effort, attempted to control his end but failed. As US forces surrounded his home in 1945, Tojo shot himself, but American doctors saved him. He was tried by a war crimes tribunal and sentenced to death for crimes against humanity. In December 1948, Tojo was hanged at Sugamo prison, a definitive end to his military regime. Saddam Hussein's fall was one of the most televised events of the early 21st century. In 2003, he was pulled from a spider hole near Tikrit by US forces, disheveled and broken. He was tried by an Iraqi tribunal for crimes against his own people, facing his actions in public. In December 2006, Saddam was executed by hanging, marking the end of his long and brutal rule. Muammar Gaddafi ruled Libya for 42 years, but the Arab Spring found him in his hometown. In 2011, he was discovered hiding in a drainage pipe in Sirte by rebel fighters. His final moments were chaotic and brutal, shared globally as a definitive end to his long rule. Pol Pot, the architect of the Cambodian genocide, died under arrest in a remote jungle hut. In 1998, he died of heart failure while facing potential international trial for horrific crimes. His body was cremated on a pile of tires, a low end for a man who caused so much suffering. Nicolae Ceausescu of Romania saw his power vanish in a single afternoon during a public speech. The speech meant to show strength turned into a revolution. He and his wife fled by helicopter. On Christmas Day 1989, they were executed by firing squad, ending communist rule in Romania. Idi Amin fled into a long and comfortable exile in 1979 after being deposed as Uganda's ruler. He died in a hospital in Jeddah in 2003, never having faced justice for lives lost. Kim Jong-il's death in North Korea in 2011 was followed by choreographed public grief. He reportedly died of a heart attack while traveling on his train, leaving an absolute legacy. Mao Zedong, who led China for decades, died in 1976 after years of declining health. His body was embalmed and placed in a massive mausoleum in Tiananmen Square. Francisco Franco ruled Spain for nearly 40 years. He died in a hospital in 1975. His death led to the restoration of the monarchy and a transition to democracy. Augusto Pinochet died in 2006 while under house arrest for human rights abuses. He suffered a heart attack and died in a military hospital, never having stood full trial. Fidel Castro outlasted countless attempts on his life, dying at age 90 in 2016. His ashes were placed in a simple, large granite boulder after he stepped down. Josip Broz Tito, the unifying force of Yugoslavia, died in 1980 after a public illness. His funeral was attended by leaders from both sides of the Cold War. Getulio Vargas of Brazil, facing a military coup in 1954, chose suicide. He shot himself in the heart, leaving a note, "I leave life to enter history." These ends highlight the dictator's trap, the isolation of absolute power. In the end, history doesn't care about your throne, only how you left it. Stay curious.